Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're going to be, kind of diving into a classic, Washington Irving's The Legend of Sleepy Hollow.
Oh, fantastic choice.
I think a lot of us probably read this one back in high school.
Absolutely.
But, there's always so much more to find when you revisit these books,
Yeah.
especially when we've got, Irving's original text, and we can pull in some literary criticism
Yeah.
and really,
Dig into it.
yeah, dig into all those layers and nuances. And
Absolutely.
so are you ready to kind of head back to Sleepy Hollow?
Oh, I'm always ready for Sleepy Hollow. One of the things that makes it so fascinating, I mean, even beyond like the spooky fun of it all,
Yeah.
is the way that Irving uses the story to really capture those like anxieties and aspirations of early American society.
Yeah.
And Ichabod Crane, our main character, he's almost like a walking embodiment of those themes.
He really is. Okay, so let's talk about Ichabod, right?
Oh,
So we've got this kind of lanky, awkward school teacher, big dreams, ambitions that are maybe a little too big
yeah,
for his current social situation.
definitely.
And he is just head over heels for Katrina Van Tassel, the daughter of this very wealthy landowner.
Right. And the way that Irving describes Ichabod's, less desirable qualities.
Oh yeah.
I mean, his voice is a nasal twang.
Yeah.
His singing is atrocious.
Oh no.
And his appetite, well, let's just say it's hearty.
He can put it away.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not exactly, your dashing romantic hero.
Not quite.
It's almost like Irving is almost like making fun of the whole idea, this like
The classic romantic lead.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Right.
And this is where I think like that social commentary really starts to come through, right?
Exactly.
Because Ichabod, he's not just interested in Katrina, he's obsessed with her family's wealth.
Oh, yeah.
He has these visions of himself as like, lord of this vast estate, inheriting all this abundance.
Absolutely. It's like Irving is using Ichabod to really like satirize those social climbers, those people who are just obsessed with material wealth and climbing that social ladder.
Yeah, he's not looking for love. He's looking for a shortcut to the good life.
Exactly, a shortcut to the top.
Yeah.
And the episode that we're focusing on here takes place at this grand party at the Van Tassel's home.
Right.
And even the way that Ichabod prepares for this party is so telling.
Oh yeah.
He like meticulously borrows this horse named Gunpowder.
Oh, Gunpowder.
Which is almost as much of a character as its rider.
Oh, for sure. And Irving's description of this horse.
Yeah.
A broken down plow horse with a spectral eye.
Yeah, it's practically a walking metaphor for the decaying remnants of the past.
Right. It's just brilliant how Irving uses these descriptions of Gunpowder to almost like foreshadow the spookiness of Sleepy Hollow itself.
Yeah, it's like even the landscape is steeped in this eerie, otherworldly atmosphere.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, right.
So we've got Ichabod, right? Driven by ambition, maybe a little too much imagination.
Yeah, fueled by it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
setting off on this very unreliable steed
Right.
to try to win over Katrina.
To win her hand.
You could just feel the tension building.
Absolutely. And as he journeys through the countryside, Irving gives us these incredible, vivid descriptions of the landscape.
Oh, so vivid.
Ripe apples and golden fields of corn and pumpkins galore.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's all so idyllic.
Yeah.
But it also sets up this really stark contrast to the darkness
Yes.
that's lurking beneath the surface of Sleepy Hollow.
It's like the calm before the storm, right?
Exactly.
But you can just feel it.
Mm-hmm.
And when we arrive at the party with Ichabod, the atmosphere it's electric.
It is, yeah.
There's so many colorful characters, so much food, traditional Dutch food, music, dancing. But there's also this undercurrent of anticipation.
Yeah.
Like something is about to happen.
Almost like a ghost story waiting to be told.
Ooh.
Right.
Yes. And speaking of ghost stories, Sleepy Hollow is full of them.
Oh, isn't it though?
And as the party moves from the dance floor to the fireside, the mood shifts.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden the talk turns to local legends and lore.
Right, and these aren't just your average ghost stories either. These
No.
tales are like deeply woven into the fabric of the community.
They really are.
Yeah.
Okay, so give us some examples. What kind of stories are we talking about here?
So you've got the woman in white,
Okay.
this tragic figure who haunts a dark Glen.
Ooh, spooky.
You've got ghostly funeral processions that roam the countryside.
Oh, I like that.
But of course, the most prominent figure, the one that really captures everyone's attention,
Yes.
is the Headless Horseman.
The Headless Horseman. I mean, just the name sends chills down your spine.
Oh, for sure.
And Irving's descriptions of the local churchyard and the old bridge where the horseman is said to appear. It's
so vivid.
Oh my gosh, it's so vivid. It's almost like you're right there with Ichabod.
Yes.
You know, just feeling that fear kind of creeping in.
What I think is so interesting is how these stories seem to hold a certain fascination for the people of Sleepy Hollow.
Yeah.
It's almost like they enjoy being scared.
Right.
Or perhaps they find a sense of identity in these shared legends.
Yeah, the shared history.
Right.
Everyone except Ichabod, though, right?
Well, yeah, he's not having a good time.
He's getting more and more uneasy as the night goes on.
Right, especially when the stories focus on the Headless Horseman.
Yeah.
This is where Ichabod's character really starts to unravel.
Okay.
His superstition and fear, they just take hold.
Yeah.
And they make him so vulnerable to the power of suggestion.
Right.
It's as if these stories are feeding his anxieties, you know, blurring the lines between reality and folklore.
Yeah. And then, of course, we have Brom Bones, Ichabod's rival for Katrina's affections.
Oh, yes, Brom.
Decides to, add fuel to the fire
Yes.
with his own tale of encountering the Headless Horseman.
Oh, he does.
So tell us about Brom Bones. What kind of character is he?
So Brom Bones, he's a fascinating character in his own right.
Okay.
He represents this kind of rough and tumble masculinity
Mm-hmm.
that's in direct contrast to Ichabod's, more bookish and awkward demeanor.
Yeah. And his story about the horseman, I mean, it's full of bravado.
Oh, yeah.
It's almost like he's trying to impress Katrina and intimidate Ichabod at the same time.
Oh, absolutely. It's a power play for sure.
Yeah.
He's establishing himself as the brave one,
Right.
the one who can face even the most terrifying of legends.
Yeah, and you can imagine how this affects the already jittery Ichabod.
Oh, Ichabod's not having a good time.
No, he is not. He is not.
At all.
So the party breaks up. Ichabod is left to journey home alone.
Right.
His mind is racing with these terrifying images.
Oh, yeah.
And he has to go through this dark and lonely countryside where, according to legend, the Headless Horseman roams.
Yeah, talk about a recipe for disaster.
Oh my gosh, this is not looking good for Ichabod.
It's not.
It's the perfect setup for a chilling climax, right?
It really is, yeah. And Irving leaves us with this lingering question. Will Ichabod's imagination get the better of him?
Oh, that is a great question.
As we kind of delve deeper into Ichabod's journey home, you can almost feel that tension, rising.
Oh, yeah.
Irving's descriptions of the evening sky, the quiet stillness of the Hudson River, the fading light over the hills. I mean, it's also beautifully written.
It really is.
But you just can't escape this growing sense of dread.
No, it's like he's toying with us, right? He's giving us this peaceful scene.
Right.
But we know.
We know it's coming.
Yeah, something's coming, and Ichabod's growing unease just adds to that feeling that there's something sinister around every corner.
Exactly. It's like he's playing on those like primal fears
we
all have about the unknown,
Yeah.
about the darkness that hides just beyond our sight.
Yes.
And this is where the setting of the story almost becomes like another character.
Okay.
As Ichabod passes certain landmarks, places that are steeped in local lore,
Right.
his imagination just runs wild.
You mean places like the old Dutch church?
Yes.
And the bridge?
Yeah.
Where the Headless Horseman is said to appear?
Exactly.
And those spots are like ground zero.
Right.
For Sleepy Hollow's spooky reputation.
Exactly. And Irving doesn't shy away from using those locations to heighten the tension.
No, he doesn't.
He describes them in such vivid detail
Yeah.
that you can almost feel the chill in the air, hear the rustling leaves, and just sense the weight of history and superstition pressing down on Ichabod.
It's like all those ghost stories he heard at the party are taking on a life of their own.
Yeah.
They're starting to blur the lines between reality and folklore.
And then you add to that the fact that he's riding alone through the dark.
Right.
And it's no wonder he's starting to lose his grip on rationality.
It's interesting though how our surroundings can influence our perceptions, right?
Absolutely.
Especially at night.
Right.
I mean, familiar places can become completely different in the darkness.
Oh,
Our
yeah,
senses are heightened.
they are.
It's almost like we become more susceptible to fear and suggestion.
Right, and Ichabod is already primed for that.
Oh, he is.
I mean, he's a man who loves ghost stories but is terrified of them at the same time.
Yes. Yes, he is.
His superstitious nature makes him, like the perfect target for the legends of Sleepy Hollow. He embodies that contradiction, right? He's drawn to the supernatural. But it also terrifies him.
It does.
And that internal struggle, I think, makes him a much more complex and relatable character.
Absolutely.
Than he might appear on the surface.
Right. He's not just a bumbling fool.
Well,
he's someone wrestling with very real fears.
He is.
And as his journey continues, those fears start to manifest in very real ways.
How so?
Well, he starts to hear strange sounds. He sees shadowy figures in the trees.
Oh, no.
Every rustle of leaves makes him jump.
Oh.
I mean, Irving is a master at building suspense.
Yeah.
He uses these small, almost insignificant details to create this sense of growing dread. Of something sinister closing in.
It's like a slow burn horror movie.
Yes.
You know something terrifying is coming.
Right.
You're not sure when or how.
Exactly.
And then, of course, comes the moment we've all been waiting for.
Ichabod finally encounters a figure on horseback.
Oh, dun dun!
A large, shadowy figure.
Right.
That seems to match the descriptions of the Headless Horseman.
The moment of truth.
Right. But even here, Irving doesn't give us easy answers.
No, he doesn't.
He keeps us guessing, is it really the horseman?
Right.
Or is this just Ichabod's imagination playing tricks on him?
Exactly.
He lets our imaginations run wild.
He does.
We're right there with Ichabod, experiencing his fear, his uncertainty.
Yeah.
And it's even more effective, I think, because Irving plays with our expectations. Ichabod tries to convince himself that it's just another traveler.
Right.
Anything but the dreaded horseman.
Yeah.
But deep down, both he and the reader, we know it's not going to be that simple.
We know better.
Yeah.
There's that element of denial, that human instinct
Yeah.
to rationalize away our fears.
Right.
But sometimes the truth is just too terrifying to ignore.
And in this case, the truth is galloping towards Ichabod at full speed.
It is. And even in this critical moment, Irving injects a bit of humor into the scene. I mean, Ichabod's horse, Gunpowder,
Oh, poor Gunpowder.
is just as terrified as his rider,
Oh, we know.
adding this almost comical chaos
Yeah.
to an otherwise, tense situation.
Poor Gunpowder. He's like the physical embodiment
Yes.
of Ichabod's own fear,
He is.
which makes the whole situation even more absurd.
Yeah.
And in a strange way, even more suspenseful.
It's like a twisted comedic dance with Ichabod and Gunpowder stumbling through the darkness, trying desperately to escape this looming threat.
And of course, the shadowy figure gives chase.
Oh, yes.
And then the chase is on. Irving's description of the chase itself is just incredible.
It's so vivid.
It's so vivid. It's like the landscape comes alive with menace. Trees become obstacles. Shadows take on threatening shapes.
Right.
The sound of the horseman's pursuit just echoes through the night.
It's a nightmare come to life.
It is.
And you really feel like you're right there with Ichabod.
Yeah.
Experiencing the adrenaline, the panic, the sheer terror of being hunted by something you can't fully comprehend.
He's trapped in this world where his deepest fears have materialized.
Right.
Into a very real and very dangerous threat.
Yeah, and as he races toward the church bridge,
Yes.
that place where legend says the Headless Horseman vanishes.
Right.
The tension becomes almost unbearable.
It's the climax of the story, right?
It is.
This is it. This is the moment where Ichabod's fate hangs in the balance.
It does.
Will he outrun his fears and escape?
Right.
Or will he succumb to the legend of the Headless Horseman?
That is the question.
All right, so here we are, right?
Here we are.
The climax of the story.
Yes.
Ichabod racing towards the church bridge.
Mm-hmm.
The shadowy figure of the horseman right behind him.
Right on his heels.
Irving has just cranked up the tension.
Oh, absolutely.
To the max.
Yeah.
So what happens next?
Well, this is where Irving's, masterful kind of blend of horror and humor really shines.
Yeah.
He gives us a chase scene that's both terrifying and in true Irving fashion, a bit absurd.
Yeah.
Picture Ichabod desperately urging Gunpowder to go faster while the figure of the horseman is looming closer and closer.
I can just imagine the scene.
Yeah.
Poor Ichabod. he's probably convinced this is the end.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And remember, this is all happening against the backdrop of the church bridge.
Right.
It's not just any bridge.
Right.
It's the place where legend says the Headless Horseman vanishes.
Oh.
So that detail adds a whole other layer of suspense.
Right. So for Ichabod, it's like his only hope
Yeah.
is to reach this one specific spot
Yes.
before the horseman catches him.
He's got to make it to the bridge.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
And Irving describes Ichabod taking one last desperate glance over his shoulder, just in time to see the horseman rear back and hurl something at him.
Okay, this is the moment with the pumpkin, right?
Yes, the pumpkin.
It's such a classic scene.
It is.
But I've always wondered, like, why a pumpkin?
Right. It seems simple at first,
Yeah.
but when you really think about it,
Mm-hmm.
the pumpkin is more than just a random object.
That's it.
It's a symbol of the harvest, of abundance, of the very things that Ichabod covets.
So you're saying there's like a deeper meaning here.
I think so.
Okay.
You know, think about it. Ichabod is so focused on attaining wealth and status that he's blinded to the real dangers lurking around him.
Right.
He allows his superstition and fear to just completely take over.
Yeah.
And ultimately that's what leads to his downfall.
Okay.
The pumpkin, a symbol of his desires,
Right.
becomes the instrument of his defeat.
Wow. I never thought about it that way.
Yeah.
It's like the pumpkin represents the crushing weight of his own ambition and fear.
Exactly. And what happens next is almost anticlimactic.
Okay.
You know, Ichabod is thrown from his horse, the pumpkin shatters around him,
Yeah.
and the next morning, he's gone.
Just gone, vanished.
Well, not entirely.
Right.
His hat is found near the shattered pumpkin,
Right.
and that's the only clue we have to his fate.
So what happened to Ichabod? Did the Headless Horseman really, like, spirit him away?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is.
And Irving, being the brilliant storyteller he is,
Mhm.
leaves the ending open to interpretation.
Right.
You know, we're left to wonder if the horseman was real
Right.
or if it was all a figment of Ichabod's overactive imagination.
Right. Some people believe that Brom Bones was behind it all.
Oh, yeah, that's a popular theory.
That he used the legend of the horseman to scare Ichabod away and win Katrina for himself.
Right. You know, it adds this human element to the story. It suggests that sometimes the scariest monsters are the ones that we create ourselves.
It's true.
Right.
But even if that's the case, there's still this sense of mystery and unease
Yes.
that lingers long after you finish the story.
Exactly. Irving leaves us with those lingering questions and those haunting images, reminding us that even in seemingly idyllic settings, there are always shadows lurking just beyond the light.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Right.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today.
I think so.
And I have to admit, I'm seeing this story in a whole new light.
Me too.
It's so much more than just a spooky tale.
It really is.
Right.
It's a story that speaks to our deepest fears, our aspirations, and the ways in which our imaginations can both shape and distort our reality.
So well said. And on that note, we wrap up our deep dive
We do.
into Washington Irving's The Legend of Sleepy Hollow.
Such a great story.
If you've enjoyed this exploration, be sure to subscribe to the deep dive for more fascinating journeys
Please do.
into the world of literature, history, and culture.
We'll be here
We'll be here.
to guide you through the complexities of knowledge,
Yeah.
uncovering those hidden insights and unexpected connections
Mhm.
that make learning a true adventure.
Love it.
Until next time, happy listening.